probably favored. If he takes the loss though, and the deck he's trying to target goes down, whilst also boosting up Holy Water to 2 games to 0, I see very, very slim avenues to victory for him.
Yeah, I spoke to him about this matchup before, one of his GM matches actually, and he says that the buff Paladin is very favoured in this matchup, but it's very hard to play accurately.
Okay.
I don't know all the intricacies of that, because the second you say accuracy, oh no, we don't want any of that around here. But apparently, even though it's a good matchup, it's a very good matchup. To actually convert it, there are a lot of pitfalls you can fall into, apparently. And that makes sense, right? Because if you lose your minions, for instance, you don't get the Blessing of Authority. Demon Hunter has quite good removal early on, and there's a lot of nuance around that. So here it is. Here is the buff Paladin. Get a minion to stick on the board, make it huge, hit your opponent with it 2 or 3 times, and off you go.
And I think your breakdown of the Paladin versus Pascoa's breakdown of the Paladin indicates why he's the pro player and you're not. Kind of interestingly, because even though you're saying it's an easy deck and he's saying it's a hard deck, I think that shows how good Pascoa is at these types of aggro decks, right? Because, you know, to me, almost the point of Paladin, why Paladin is almost always the #1 highest win rate class on HS Replay, is unless it's in some kind of weird combo or control form, as it has been a couple of times throughout Hearthstone's history, it's a pretty easy class to play, to be perfectly honest. Like you said, you play your minions. In this instance, you reduce your Librams. In other metas, you would have, I don't know, played your buff cards. Whatever other Paladins have existed along the way, played your aggro matchup, you know, your mini-bot into whatever it was along the way. But Pascoa seeing through that and seeing that there are actually a lot of optimizations to find in these aggressive matchups, I think to me highlights that he is seeing it on a slightly deeper level than players such as myself who would decry it as just a very easy deck indeed.
Look how he's changed over the last 3 weeks, Darren. Every time we see him, he's nervous and shaky and, you know, playing well but looking sort of terrified but happy to be here at all times. And now 3 weeks of GM, some good results, and now he's got all the confidence in the world going on.
Yeah, I mean, Pascoa, I hope he doesn't mind me saying, but on social media he's been pretty vocal about how sorting out his mental health, getting himself a lot of help from therapists in terms of improving his mental aspect in terms of Hearthstone, which I absolutely agree has been crucial, absolutely key to his recent success in Hearthstone Grandmasters. And I love to see it because I do really believe him to be one of the best players that Americas has to offer right now. And also, as I've said a couple of times, just a stand-up guy. We're big Pascoa fans here.
Yeah, absolutely. Holy Water, like I say, his first time really under the spotlight again, has only his best result in those 4 tournaments was 3 and 5. Been a bit of a learning process, which it is when you play some Masters tours. We see, you know, people who are very well known today. Like, when did Gabby really start winning Masters tour events? His first couple, I don't think they were terrible or anything, but yeah, some 4s and 5s in there, I think, to start with. He's got 7, of course. But, you know, it takes a while to adjust to the fact that every single round you're playing, every single game you're playing is against one of the best 300 or 400 people in the world. And you have to not make any mistakes. Also training yourself to just last 2 days. It always sounds hard to convey, right? You're playing 4 matches, woo, big deal. People play 12 games of Hearthstone all day, every day. But when you're having to pace breaks and constantly be on edge, listening out for pings, whether your match has started, all that stuff, it's just draining. So there's all that going into it, but he's acquitting himself well here, 5 and 1, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he does on that.
Speaking of Gabby, I do think I need to slightly amend a statement I made. I said it could be his 5th top 8. I think that's because the way that the data is tracking it, it's already counting him as being in top 8 because he's currently in 2nd place right now. So he's due to get his potential 4th top 8, not 5th. So apologies.
What a noob!
I know, dead draw. Your record still stands for the moment. Okay, you can rest easy. You're still #1 top 8er. But anyway, getting into this series or into this game proper here. A nice start to the game for Holy Water in terms of quest progression, of course, given that he's already got 1 done. Reduced some pretty nice cards as well. As even if it's still a ways off, he got himself a pretty nice Jace in hand, right? 7 mana, Barrage and double Fellscream Blast in hand, ready to go. It could be a turn 7 bailout that he's going to need if this pressure keeps on coming for Pascoa.
Nice little clear here, using up quite a lot of resources, but it doesn't matter, plenty more where they came from. Just get rid of this stuff. Try and keep the Paladin off board as much as possible. Easier said than done sometimes, but moves the Spectral Sight to the left, so he should have a decent little refill going on. Got another Fell Screen Blast where that one came from to get rid of some more shields. Should be okay.
Oh man, a really awkward turn, all things considered, because for Pascoa, you know, he could consider going for like Noble Mount and then Orc Merchant to kill off the 1-3, but obviously then he's wasting a Divine Shield, and you can't go bump double Orc Merchant because, you know, then the first one just gives the Divine Shield and you wouldn't be able to use the second to finish it off. But at the same time, Carriel and Rush in, deleting the Divine Shield on a 1-3 is again a very awkward, fairly low pressure play.
Yeah, it's actually surprisingly annoying. And I imagine these are the sort of situations he's referring to when he says this matchup is favoured but difficult. Lots of really tough decisions. What do you do here? Divine Shield's so valuable. My instinct is drawn to the Noble Mount and the Orc Merchant, honestly. And just re-shield it.
Okay, fair enough. I guess, yeah, like you said, you get to both kill it and re-shield your minion. I think, leaning towards Carriel in the end, just because you've seen a Arcanist plus a Fell Screen Blast, so 3 health is a relatively survivable health total for a minion on board, whereas this one does leave you very vulnerable to Fell Screen Blast. But yeah, I guess no matter what, Fell Screen Blast plus Hero Power or Immolation Aura plus Hero Power would have been able to clear the board anyway.
Yeah, and I think he probably has the read. There's no Immolation Aura because of the Fell Screen Blast not being used for heal last turn.
True,
so
yeah.
The only thing he's scared of is the second Fell Screen Blast, maybe. Which, as we can see, is going to be devastating for him because it is there.
Yeah, this is pretty hardcore. Carriel coming down on an empty board is not terrible because, you know, it's a 4-mana 4/3 with Divine Shield. That's just a... man, what was it, Glass Knight back in the day? That was an actual card that was just printed in Hearthstone, obviously. Yeah. With the slight addendum that it could regain Divine Shield, but much as I tried, never did, not once, even with the True Silver Champion. And I tried so hard to make that card work, and it was just so bad.
If there was an achievement for getting the Divine Shield back on it, you would still just have a gap there. Okay, well, Pascal now not inserting the damage as quickly as he would be needing to. You mentioned that Jace a couple of turns ago, and I nearly said, nah, Darrell, come on, it's turn 4. This Jace is miles away. But now, that really is starting to look really important.
All right, what are we looking at in terms of holy spells in this deck? I'm a lot more well-versed with the Libram variant, but obviously without the Libram of Hope, you're still looking at Hand of Adal. Noble Mount is not. Hold the Bridge. I don't even know if that's a holy spell.
Notice he kept the Knight of Anointment back here so that he doesn't give Holy Water the knowledge of which Divine Shield to take out.
Mm-hmm.
He's only got... he's not going to have problems with mana next turn anyway, so he'll be able to play the Knight plus whatever he draws.
Just look at this. We were talking about the turn 7 Jace. It was good before, but now with double Fury picked up, Holy Water is just killing him this game. Jace on 7 is absolutely massive. That, however, is the caliber of card that Pascal is going to have to find to have any chance in this game whatsoever. Attack face, Blessing, and hope to just close out the game with a BGBM off the top.
Yep. That's kind of what the deck does, so let's do it.
Yeah.
Guess he's looking whether he ever, like, is the authority too slow or something, or what the problem is with 2 cards in your opponent's hand. If one's Jace unlucky and Magtheridon's not a threat, feels like it's a reasonably sensible thing to do.
I'd have to guess it's just considering where to plonk the Blessing of Authority, because by splitting up your board, it does make it so a single swing of the weapon is a little bit less effective, and given that you know that the Divine Shield is going to be taken care of by, well, a Jace if that's going to come down. But yeah, in the end, attack, buff, very, very nicely done. And just loading it all up on one minion. This was my first instinct. And Pascoa agrees. The Jace, probably not going to be enough to answer this 14-12, but I mean, we'll have to see. Crazier things have happened.
5-8. Plus as well. This is actually going to take.
What actually is big enough?
There's another Fury still to come.
Oh, that's so sick.
He's still on 20, having weathered all of that, and he has the control of the board that Pascal's going to struggle to get back.
And it's actually a world first 7-5 chase on board. It's never happened before out Druid in Cenarian Ward.
You know the out, Derek? The out that is always the out when you're playing Paladin and you're in trouble. TJ and I reference it every time.
Hero Power Mr. Smite?
Yeah, it's the new Yogg. You just keep Mr. Smite in your hand, you play everything else, you keep pressing the hero power button and hope to hit them for whatever you need.
Okay, let's take a look at the list for Holy Water, though. He is playing one Rustrock Viper, which obviously speeds up his chance of hitting lethal drastically, if he could find that. But first and foremost, he's definitely going to be focusing on completing the quest, which should be fairly easy to do, obviously with just trade Chaos Strike, but he's just considering if he wants to hold on to the need for greed, just to play it next turn for the full 5, which is, I think, quite reasonable.
Yeah, he has reasonable stuff going on, so there was no need for greed in particular right now. You know, the little things together somehow.
I know.
What I'm paid to do. Actually, I don't know what I'm paid to do. Give it a go.
Oh, a whole bunch of banana men, but
a bunch of banana men.
They're not doing much, are they?
The best collective noun I've heard. Nice to hit Samurai, misses.
Really, it's not too heavy.
Hey. Yeah. Hey, the other banana man, just because, why not? Are you really interfering with anything with Neophyte? That is the question he's asking himself.
I don't think anything big enough. Like, realistically, you need to go Bannerman and then next turn hit Parrot, right? If you can go Neophyte into Parrot, does that ever get there? Because the last spell, I think, was still Blessing of Authority.
I think you're right, yeah.
Yeah. So I do favour the Bannerman this turn, just to try and condense all your big threats into one turn. And, I mean, hey, there we go. There's the Squawker.
Yeah, assuming we got that right. And even if not, he still gets the buff. Obviously, he would like to have picked up Mr. Smite because there's a chance he just lethals his opponent.
Glide is
healing.
Glide's interesting at this point in the game, right? Because, yeah, no healing, so he does need to be a little bit afraid. But with two cards in hand double buffed, one single buffed, one of them could be Mr. Smite for 8 damage plus the weapon. Like, it's getting a little bit scary. But as long as you clear the board with Kurtrus as he's doing here, I think he's still just never dead.
Yeah, and he's got lethal next turn himself now. This is so much damage coming. Oh, it's not because of...
yeah. It's not far off, though, to be fair. This is still 8 damage coming in this turn. Like, he might be able to get it through the weapon. I don't know.
It's a lot, I think. Oh,
okay.
Hearthstone.
So Samuro clears the board here because I believe it's a 3-8 at this point with the double Bannerman buff.
Yeah.
So you can happily rush that into the bat and then Squawker again, if I was correct, and it's still the Blessing of Authority.
I'm not certain when the other card, was it a hand, was played?
Hand, but the hand was played first because you reduced
okay,
both.
then you're right, it's the Authority then, for sure.
Yeah. But But I guess at the same time, actually, it's not necessarily an instant squawker, because you could go Samuro Neophyte Hero Power and hope to hit the Mr. Smite. Like, as ridiculous as it is to sometimes hope for it, in this instance, Mr. Smite is a real win condition.
Yeah. Yeah, because when we talk about it, it's usually on 30 health, but on 19, it's a big difference. Yeah. It sets up lethal. 13s aren't the easiest thing in the world at all for Demon Hunters to clear up.
They are not. Still no Viper as well. Although having said that, there it is off the top. Okay. Lethal outs, I still think, are pretty slim to non-existent. With Kurtrus not having been played yet from the quest, and Jace Fell Barrages already having been used. So the Snake is nice, obviously, to start getting some more serious damage through. But there's still the 12-13 that you need to worry about right now.
Yeah, and how's he going to get rid of that?
I'll never stop searching.
Oh, hang on. I was going to say he's just going to die, but he's almost... Yeah,
You're kidding! That's so unlucky! Oh, Pasco was just getting there next turn. Oh!
Okay. Mr. Smite with 10. Damage from hand is 12.
Yeah.
The
If
only
you can pick up...
survival is to hit Mr. Smite and trade, most likely, unless I'm missing something.
Ooh, Mr. Smite holds the bridge is 1 damage off a clear on the Magtheridon. But it does give you lifesteal, right? So Mr. Smite hold the bridge and tank the Magtheridon is a very real play you could make.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, you could do it anyway, obviously.
Try and win the turn after.
Yeah. Alternatively, you could go Neophyte Hero Power, and then next turn, if you don't draw a minion, you go Hero Power Mr. Smite, and if you do, you could maybe consider Hold the Bridge. But either way, assume you hit 2 Hero Powers on Mr. Smite. That's then up to 14 damage, which plus 2 swings of the weapon does equal lethal, right? If you manage to hit that.
I like it. I like it. They seem reasonably equal in their strength, but yeah, your play is kind of cool.
Okay, he's going with the clear route. Oh, I thought he was anyway. He's just going face with Mr. Smite instead. My goodness.
Well, he can't tank it.
Cannot. That might change things, though. That might just change things for lethal, however, because now Rostrot Viper, 1, 2, 3 hero powers plus... Oh, no, sorry, 2 hero powers plus the Aldraki Warblade is exactly 6, which means this is 18 damage right now for Holy Water. It's 1 off.
Raiding it, looking for more damage.
Oh!
Looking for more damage.
Chaos Leech is a good draw because you can go... you can use it to just take off the Divine Shield, if nothing else. Even if that doesn't get the lifesteal, obviously, it gives you a clear on the Mr. Smite, which is very, very important.
Skull play won't work. Oh, yeah, Skull's possible, actually, to draw 3 cards. What damage?
Then you can't play the Viper, right? I think it's just got to be, Chaos Leech. Use it as literally a plink of damage, and then clear it off with the very unfortunate Magtheridon. But the important thing is, you are essentially never dead here. The weapon is gone. Lethal is set up next turn. Samuro is down. Mr. Smite is down. The weapon is down. Even at 1 health, Pascoa just can't deal with the Magtheridon. And then with BGBM off the top, Holy Water just manages to sneak out the win. What an absurd way to end that game of Hearthstone, and a disastrous loss for Pascoa.
Yeah, he absolutely needed to take that down. Like you say, that was the soft target of the lineup, and it's gone, it's through. The Druid is through. There is a Paladin remaining. We like to laugh at Paladins. Ha, 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 ha. So maybe it can get reverse swept, but you've got to face a Paladin at some point. So actually, then it's double ha, 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 and then who knows what happens. But Pascal got an uphill battle to come now. He's got the Priest, the Rogue, which isn't the Poison Rogue, and his own Paladin. Why isn't it Poison Rogue? I need to ask him this or something.
Why is it not Poison Rogue? It's the Quest Rogue because he's trying to target the Demon Hunter. Like,
but he beats everything with Poison Rogue. He just targets the lineup.
he does, yeah. I mean, it's such a difficult deck to bring to a Masters Tour, right? Like, Weapon Rogue, since it's existed, not even since Shank came out, but since Self-Sharpening Sword has existed, it's been a real pet deck of the Masters Tour system, right? Players will always wheel out Poison Rogue, and someone will always do very well with it. But what you don't see is the leagues of people who just hit Ooze, Viper, Harrison, whatever the flavor of the month is in terms of weapon removal. There'll almost always be an answer, and then Weapon Rogue just falls flat on its face. Or even just if you hit full aggro, right? That's the real terror, not even weapon removal.
Yeah.
And with enough players going for aggro, I do like Pasco's choice of going for the Quest Rogue instead.
Please do not destroy our America's region narratives, Derek, with your
Apologies.
Sorry to Alu Timu's 7 and 0s or 6 and 1s or whatever he is. Like, Pasqua does not lose ever with Weapon Rogue, no matter how many Vipers he plays. You can play all Vipers against him and he'd still beat you.
You're going like
Holy water.
full America's mode, saying like Pasco is the best Weapon Rogue player in the way that like America is the best American football player in the world. Like, yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, obviously, but I don't think it really counts for much.
Holy Water with the more traditional Liberal Paladin. Just ignore your regional bias here, Derek. And Holy Water is going to be playing this Liban Paladin, and he's going to have a wealth of options to play against because Pascal still has to win with all 3 decks.
He does indeed, and in terms of ranking them against the Paladin that is left over, the Libram Paladin, right, as we just saw, yeah. I think he's probably taking the best first in the Priest, with the alternatives being what his Druid was banned, so it's buff Paladin or the Quest Rogue. Maybe Quest Rogue is arguably a better matchup actually, just because of the power of the SI7 Assassins and the Fizz Flash Distractors to get through these big minions. But even so, I'm prattling on. I do think the relative lack of reactivity from Paladin in general could bite Holy Water here, because with this version of the deck, much more so than with the with the rally version here for Pascoa, as opposed to the miracle version that most players are bringing. It's much less about dealing with a massive board on the one turn that it pops off, where you need to hit Barov or a ridiculously big Blade Master Samurai to clear it off. It's about having consistent small clears more so than one big clear, and that's where Paladin really struggles unless they get ahead on board at the start. Because if Holy Water doesn't have a 1-drop and Pascoa just plays Sethic Veilweaver on 2, what does Paladin do? They really start to struggle against that.
And we're starting to look at that. Holy Water did keep the Baroth and the other 3-drop. He did get rid of the Truth Seeker, which makes sense here, but traditionally is a card you consider keeping in the olden days, not so much now because the deck's somewhat different to those days. Yeah.
Oh man, this is a tough pick. Like, Shard is generically good in the matchup, right? When your opponent's playing Libram of Wisdom, Noble Mount, Hand of Adal, obviously a mass silence effect is very powerful, especially for such a little mana cost. But this hand, to me right now, is just absolutely screaming for a palm readings. And so picking the second Thrive off the first was very, very tempting to me, just to keep on digging for that palm reading. But here with Pascoa picking up the Thrive off the top anyway, he can just keep on looking.
Yeah, I wonder if I thought he might do this. He's facing a 1-1. He knows there's not much danger here in the opener. And with 3 1-drops in his hand, he could kind of get a pretty good turn next turn, although not that much going on. There is the Devour, which will boost it up as well. Maybe he thinks he could protect this all the way.
Well, that's all fine and dandy from Pascoa's perspective, but from a Holy Water's perspective, he has not one but 2 pretty efficient ways to chew through this Nazmani. I do think he will settle on the coin carryall here as the one thing that Pascoa really didn't want to see. Barov, I honestly don't think was ridiculous, just because saving the coin is worth so much in this deck. Like, being able to hit coin Libram of Hope versus not hitting coin Libram of Hope or coin variant is night and day, and can often win or lose you the matchup on the spot. But this 4-3 is just going to keep on VTing anything that comes down for Pascoa.
Yeah, maybe Holy Water was thinking that if there is an accident later, Barov deals with something like a 12-12 that might turn up along the way if something goes wrong. Rally Priest a little bit more resilient than regular Miracles for returning minions.
What is a loon's will?
Okay, Ray's dead for another Nazmani. I mean, this hand does, again, really want a Nazmani.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's also absurd to go for Gift of Luminance, because your opponent went coin 4-drop, and 4 is by far the weakest mana slot for Libram Paladin, with only Cariel and Samuro kind of counting as proactive plays on 4 mana. So I think there's a reasonable shot that your opponent has a weak play. They just go for something like Hero Power Pass or Hero Power Buff Pass. And then if you could go Sethic plus Blessing next turn, it makes a board the way that they can't necessarily clear off every single one of your minions plus the Divine Shield. But that's a lot of ifs. There's a lot of dependencies there. Whereas Pascoa just saying, take Raise Dead, play the Sethic, raise Dead both of them afterwards, and hope to hit some kind of a miracle.
Yeah, I think he is... we say this a lot anyway, but I think he's one of the best players at factoring in every possibility from the top of his deck and working out, weighing up which is the best. And he's gone for the palm reading hit here, right? Mostly. There's other outs, of course. He hits the palm reading, off you go in 2 turns' time. If you don't, well, it's probably a job anyway.
Okay. I mean, Pascoa kind of set up for a clever play of bringing the Cariel down to 1 health as well, but even that has now been foiled by the Libram on the other side. So Shadow Word Devour is not going to be quite as juicy as he needed it to be.
Yeah, I wonder if he's desperately trying to hold on to these cards, but silencing some of this stuff is going to be necessary soon.
Oh, it's just all so awkward. If he had 1 more mana, he could go Sethic, Power Word, Fortitude, and Shadow Word Devour. But in this instance, he can't quite fit all that in, so he's just going with Shard, and then I guess Renew plus Devour is what he would be considering. I do kind of feel like he should have held on to the Raise Dead, though, because that was another spell in hand that potentially could have left him with a playable Power Word Fortitude. Maybe that's just never a possibility.
Yeah, it looks like I'd agree with you. That's how I would have played it. But he does have the second Devour, which may prove to be handy next turn.
I guess it was just never playable. Fair enough. All right, technically alive on board now is the Sethic Veilweaver. Hand of Anointment has a 3 out of 5 to hit a kill here with either 1 Libram of Wisdom or 2 Hand of Adals, and does hit. If it had missed, the Stonehearth could obviously remedy that 100% of the time anyway. So always a guaranteed clear here, I believe, on the Sethic Veilweaver, which is, of course, the one thing that Pascoa needed to not happen for there to be much of a chance for him to get back into the game.
Yeah, and he's still got a little bit of time. The damage isn't coming thick and fast yet, but already looking at Draconic Studies, hoping for something nice to happen.
I mean, oh, it's such an agonizing hand, right? Because he just needs a little something extra, and this can actually start doing some pretty strong stuff, like a Condemn here to clear the board, a Holy Nova, another double Shadow Word Devour, sorry, to be able to clear off this board. He just needs a tiny bit of breathing room to stick something for a turn, and he may be able to pull it back. Instead of going for the removal option where my head was at, he's instead tried to just double down on sticking a high health minion, so high health that Holy Water surely now could not kill it off after using Cariel, a whole bunch of buff spells. But even then, this Barov is just sitting there waiting to go to clear this off.
Yeah, and with the rally in the hand, the worst case is you probably clear the Paladin's board if they've got a buff or two to clear up, which they almost certainly haven't, as you just described. Actually has the clear if he wants it with Libram hit, Libram hit, Libram hit, but God, that's a whole turn and all of your boards.
Oh, true.
Not the nicest clear.
If it was like, if these devout pupils were 1 mana cheaper, I'd be fine with that play just because you could end with double pupil. But given that you would end your turn with literally nothing in play, I just don't think it's worth it. I'd much rather use the barrel to pull ahead on board. And then next turn, you can go double devout pupil, you can go mutinous, you can go Lady Liadrin. There's so many strong plays you can make, all while having an actual strong board presence.
Yep, and that's what he goes with because he is sensible. Not in danger of exploding anytime soon, so it's actually a fighting force at 4/3 as well.
Oh man, what are we looking for here? Again. Not these. Mailbox Dancer is just pure trash. Sneaky Delinquent adds a stealth to your hand, which is still not bad, actually. Stealth is pretty good at this point in the game, just to be able to finally actually stick something.
The trouble he's got now as well, though, is he's facing death in 2 or 3 turns himself, probably too.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, the Drake, has he got the stuff? He hasn't.
Wait, does he not? Oh, he's got no shadow. Oh!
Like, you always have it, and that's what the shake of his head was. It's like, I can't believe it. I haven't got a shadow spell. How's that happened?
You actually always have it, but he actually doesn't have it. Oh. You take it anyway for a chance to clear next turn, or do you just take Skeletal as, again, the highest stats?
I think you need to clear next turn, honestly, personally.
Yeah, agreed. Or even Sleepy, actually. It's not absurd just because it's playable next turn with 12 health. Okay.
Usually just says hi.
Yeah, he's
goes,
seen a dragon added to hand. That's good enough for him. And honestly, no matter what he hits here, he'd be happy. Sethic Veil Weaver, fantastic. One less way for Pascoa to dig himself out of this game.
Holy!
Yeah, that's holy. Yeah, it's not a terrible spell to hit, though. Like, he needs to hit such a specific series of generations here. Like, that's not bad, but it has to come as a result of, like, double reduce Feast and then double reduce a 1-mana card in hand. Like, it's just way too convoluted to ever hope to get there. It's just GG.
Just dead on board.
Yeah.
Holy Water is going to go to 6-1, doubling the number of Masters Tours wins he previously had in his first attempts already, and obviously settled down. Looked pretty comfortable throughout all that. We naturally took it for Pascual's side. He's somebody we both know, the viewers are more familiar with, and he had the interesting decks, so to speak, but Holy Water getting the job done, looking very strong for that top 16.
He is, yeah. And, I mean, that game worked out very nicely for him. I do have maybe a couple questions about keeping Barov when you don't have a 1-drop to play, which I don't think he did have at that point in the game. Because as we saw there, the thing you want